In this episode, we'll be talking to Jess Williams, who is Managing Director of the In this episode of Let's Talk, In this episode, Let's Talk Social Allies, I'm with Jess Williams, who is Managing Director of JustWilliams and Managing Director of the JustWilliams Sales Academy. Jess, would you like to talk a little bit about JustWilliams and give us a brief overview while I have my Prosecco?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. The JustWilliams is 7 years old this year. 7 years old next month, actually, which is crazy. I don't know where the time flies. And we are a sales and marketing outsource agency. So we help SMEs grow through sales and marketing. Rather than hire a full team, we act as their team. And then about 2 years ago, we launched as a sub-brand the JustWilliams Sales Academy, and then we separated it out completely last year. So it's a completely separate business and a completely separate brand. And we've trained about 2,500 people now. We're an endorsed training provider by the Institute of Sales Professionals. So yeah, we're just all things sales.
So tell me a little bit more about the Sales Academy side of things, because I know that's completely different, but just for those who don't know about the Sales Academy side.
So, as I say, I've always been a massive believer in the sales industry as a whole. You know, I think you can have the best business in the world, but if you can't sell a product, then it doesn't matter, does it? So, you know, we always wanted to professionalise the sales industry. There's no entry criteria to get into sales, and we really wanted to change that a little bit to professionalise the industry. So we wanted to partner with the Institute of Sales Professionals, which is the national body, to create that entry criteria. So the Sales Academy in its initial form was launched as lots of training in-house, and it's since progressed, as I say, and I launched a separate business with my business partner Mark Atkinson to launch an online version. So all of our modules are online. We're constantly upgrading them, updating them. So we've got 10 live modules at the moment, and they're all endorsed, and we also offer in-house sales training. So we've trained quite a lot of people in the last few years, but we've got a really big ambition to hit 50,000 in the next 5 years. So we've got quite a long way to go.
Do you know, every person I speak to has always said, "Oh, we've had training from Jess." I say I had someone the other day, was it the ETC?
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, and then my friend used to work at Middlesbrough College, and she was like, "Oh, we've been trained by Jess Williams."
Did say good things, right?
Yeah. Well, she's lovely, she's this and that. And I was like, well, she come on my podcast.
Do you know what? I love it. And it's, I really, really enjoy. And that's been obviously really challenging over the last 2 years because it's been all virtual. So, you know, training people face to face and training people virtually is so different. And you've got to offer both. The market has changed, but I love being in a room full of people. You kind of bounce off people, and I kind of enjoy both sides of it.
Yeah, well, you are an expert.
Thank you. I try.
So I'm going to take it back to the beginning.
Okay.
Tell me about education. Tell me about what made you get into business, that type of thing.
That's a bit of a leading question, that, Jess. So I left school at 16. I went to a great school. I went to an all-girls private school for my sins in Sheffield, and which is where I'm from originally. And just kind of after quite a decent amount of education, started my A-levels, but just thought, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do. So I left school at 16, had some great GCSEs, and then went to work for a bank. So I was there for 11 years. And then I did another 2 years with another company, and then I left there to set up JustWilliams. So, I've got quite a mixed bag, really, I suppose. Obviously, I think it was about 5 years ago now, I did an executive MBA and specialised in sales psychology, which is obviously my field of expertise now. So a bit of a mixed background, really, and I've always kind of been a big believer in that kind of constant development, that constant learning. And again, there is no qualification from a sales perspective, so that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do an MBA, to really kind of give me that broad approach. But I always kind of knew I was going to run my own business. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I always thought I'd set up my own business.
What made you do the leap from being in a job to doing your own business?
I think a couple of things. I was made redundant, if I'm honest. And I think, it's one of those things that, would I have done it? Yeah, I would have done, but I think that push really helps you. And I knew what I wanted to do. And I realised that there was a real gap in the market, and there's still, the sales industry is so historic and outdated that, you know, if you look at marketing, look at your field of experts, how much has it progressed in 10 years, right?
Oh my God.
Like, unbelievably,
I would
right?
not know me last 10 years.
That's what I mean. Like, literally, and in 10 years, you probably can't even predict what's going to happen. Sales hasn't really changed in like 50, 60, 70 years. The theory behind it hasn't really changed, and we've got to keep updating. We've got to keep, you know, going. And I think the sales industry is something that's just constantly evolving. In the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, we've had to evolve, but people haven't. They've kind of been quite stagnant. So I think there's kind of a lot of change that needs to happen in the sales industry still.
Do you?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about this. Is there any different like type of way because I mean back in the day it would have been knocking on the door, type of sales, or like phoning.
Yeah.
What do you think's different now with the sales world? Obviously, I'm going to say social, but
Obviously.
are there any other ways that you think it's changed?
I think there is, and I think, you know, we again, the sales is a process in my mind, and that's why, you know, it's got to be professionalised, because like anything, you know, once you can work out what happens and what doesn't, and what works and what doesn't, you can build that process. And you know, I think sales used to be, you know, that kind of knocking on the doors and that type of thing, and that unfortunately to a certain extent is why sales has got a bad name, you know, and it still has got that really negative association, that negative connotation. A lot of people still see sales as a bit of a dirty word. You know, you look at like America and Europe, and salespeople are paid so much more and are held in such high regard than what they are here. It's a very different world that we operate in culturally. We're miles away from where we need to be. And sales has got to take an omnichannel approach, as does marketing. Do you know what I mean? Social absolutely has changed everything. You know, there are so many different systems and processes that salespeople have to adapt and adopt to, that they can't just rely on one single source, which is what they always used to by knocking on doors or picking up, you know, going through yellow pages or whatever it might be. You've got to make sure that, you know your customer and that you can adapt your approach to suit them.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even progressing in the last 10 years and being around salespeople, you can see the difference between the different sales processes than what it was before. Yeah. You know, when I was at even like the Northern Echo and things, like it's completely changed to what it is now. And I'll give a shout out to a guy called Ollie Mitchell, who I remember Chloe, who used to work for me at Social Allies. It's her boyfriend and her partner, and he works for Ash at iConvert, and Ash is brilliant at sales, and he's hired Ollie, and Ollie's just grown and progressed, and he's changing the way he does sales. Brilliant. And his process is so good. Like, and I just think like the creative minds are also in the sales world as well. Yeah. And I just think you can be creative with sales.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, you've got to be, and you can't. The whole thing about a process is it evolves, and you've got to adapt it, and you've got to know your customer well enough, or know your prospect well enough to be able to do that. You can't take a kind of a one-dimensional, singular approach with sales these days at all, because it just simply won't work. No. And if you win, it'll be because of luck rather than because of actually you've developed something that works.
Yeah. I agree. I was talking to Ash about it, and he said he'd sent off like a safe, and you could see like the alcohol in it, but you had to get the combination off him, so they had to ring back for the combination.
I love it.
And he said, I have to present to you first, or can I give you a 2-minute pitch? And I was like, that's class. Like what a class way to do sales.
I love that.
I know, I do.
You've got to be creative these days, and that's not, that's said in the best possible way, is that, we're not inundated with phone calls 24/7, but we're inundated with, access on socials, on emails, LinkedIn at the moment is just ridiculous. It infuriates me, and there's lots of different stances out there in regards to whether you should accept requests or you shouldn't. I do, but what infuriates me more than ever is like you literally accept a request and the next minute somebody's sending you message after message after message. Did you receive my message? Did you see that? That's not the way to do sales, and it never has been. And I think you've got to be more creative now. You've got to know your audience, and we act on a B2B basis. So I get that. We're not doing kind of volume or mass. So it is different. But I think, you look at some of the campaigns out there and they're genius. Do you know what I mean? They're absolutely genius.
I've said before, about a LinkedIn message, and I've said, make make it so like you are solving a problem for people instead of like just copy and paste a message.
Yeah.
Make it so you're solving their problem before they don't even realise they've got a problem.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I think? It's really difficult, isn't it? I'm certainly not perfect at it, but I think everybody's got access now to social media, and you kind of go, is it just thoughts? Is it videos? Is it, is it people having a rant, or is it actually thought leadership? Is it adding value? Like, what is it now? And I think, there's probably a lot to be done with people being trained up on that, because, you see so mixed messages, don't you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think LinkedIn knows what the hell it is anymore.
Yeah.
The platforms used to be quite different.
Yeah, it's
do you know what I mean?
Especially since COVID.
Yeah.
It's just changed.
Yeah, it has. I don't think it there used to be, in my mind, and you're the marketeer, not me, but, it used to be like a clear definition between like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn as the main ones, whereas now they kind of all seem to blur a little bit, and yeah, I think it's really difficult to get your message across, but yeah, it's yeah, I feel a bit drunk. I've had 3 sips of Prosecco. What's wrong with
It's
me?
a good Prosecco.
I've had 4 carrot sticks.
Amazing.
All day.
You've had
That's
4
why.
carrot sticks?
Yeah, I don't eat
do
during the day.
you want some crisps?
Honestly, no, it's fine. I've got honestly. I've had 4 carrot.
No wonder you're pissed.
Sorry.
So, what's your biggest challenge? I'm going to take you back to business.
Okay.
What's your biggest
Sorry, I digressed
challenge?
Totally.
It's fine. Biggest challenge in business?
People, to be really honest. And I think it's everybody's biggest challenge at the moment. The market is just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. I've never, ever known a job market like it. The last year has just been crazy, and it's so difficult to find great people. It is difficult to retain great people, and, we've really changed our whole model and changed our whole onboarding, changed our whole recruitment. But it's the challenge. I think it's the biggest challenge that most people face. And as I say, we're not alone with that at all. I think most people face it. But yeah, it is a big challenge.
I think finding people is so hard.
Yeah, it is.
And people are offering ridiculous at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think the problem is, Jess, as small businesses, do you know what I mean? We can't compete with the massive corporates, and that is a real challenge. And if you bring somebody in at a certain level, then it affects everybody else. Yeah. And so it is, and I think we're yet to find the equilibrium. Really, is to the market's gone so one way that we're yet to balance, and there's still so much flux in the market in regards to hybrid working, whether you're at work, whether you're at home. We've just done a big kind of review of our flexible benefits, and we give 5% of our net profits to charity. We give 5% to our people in terms of flexible benefits, etc. But it's just really, really difficult, and I think we do a lot. I hope we do a lot, but it is finding and retaining people. I think every business is struggling with at the moment.
I agree. What do you think about working from home and working in the office?
Oh, good question. Right, well, 2 years ago, I was in the office, and I was always in the office, and I was in the office every day. Obviously, the last 2 years, it's been kind of here, there and everywhere. I now do 3 days in the office and 2 days at home, and that works really, really well for me. So we offer it to people to find that hybrid, and I'm quite happy once they've kind of been with me for a couple of months to work that out. I think we had a few new starters during during lockdown, and it's really difficult. Do you know what I mean? If you're all working from home, you don't necessarily, it's not as easy to find that bond and to ask those little questions. So, I think I'm not going to put kind of, right, you have to be in the office a certain percentage of the time. I think that's up to the individual to work out. But I think every business is different, I don't think there's a right. And again, I think we've gone from one extreme to the other. I reckon in 12 months' time, hopefully we'll find a little bit of a norm.
The thing with us is when being creative.
Yeah.
If I have a question, or James has a question, or one of us has a question, I literally turn around and I'm like, can anyone help me with this?
Yeah.
And then everyone will just jump on it.
Yeah.
So when we do work from home on a Friday, but if we're not all together, I get panicked because I feel like,
it takes more time, doesn't it? Like you're messaging, or
yeah,
you having to pick up the phone, or oh god, and I absolutely say, right, everyone's in the office on a Monday, and our Mondays are like our team day, and I just think you're absolutely right. it's not the same. It's not the same when you work in separately, you know, and I know on like Tuesdays and Thursdays when I'm at home, I do get loads more done, but actually I love being with my team, you know, and you bounce off each other, you know what I mean? Like you do ask questions and you're like, oh God, yeah, what about that, what about that, what about that? And I think that's really important, and that's why I don't think it'll either be, you know, either one way completely. I think you've got to find that balance, and every business is different, so it's just finding what suits you really.
Yeah.
But it is difficult for businesses to manage, I think, because like if you think about it, we've still got the same overheads as whether our team are at home or at work.
Yeah, exactly. It is difficult to figure out, especially with the overheads and everything. But it is like I just find it so. I find it more infuriating messaging people back. It really pisses me off. You know, like sitting after message when I could just be like turn around and be like, I want to do this. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean my team probably get a lot more done when I'm not there because I'm constantly like, oh, what about this, or asking them this, or what about this, and probably interrupting them. So
I'm the same.
I think they probably prefer it when I'm at home a couple of days because they probably get more done as well when I'm not there.
Ben loves his Fridays because I'm not there, and I love
poor Ben.
I love every other day because I'm with Ben. And I want to talk to Ben all day, every day.
Honestly, I know. Well, Emma's the same with me. She's just like, oh, you know, I always like if I'm working at home, I'll take the dog for a walk at lunch and I'll phone Emma. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just like, and she's like, I'm just in the middle of something. And she'll never say that, but do you know what I mean? I totally disturb her because I'm like, hi, how are you? And she's like, I'm just phoning for a chat. And I'm like, I'm lonely. I'm by myself. I'm not very good at being by myself all the time. So I'm just like, hi. I
literally wait till like 8:53, and then I'm like, right, it's time, Ben, on Friday morning. And then I'll be like, can you just leave me alone? I'll be like, yeah, of course I will. And then I go to water babies with Luca. And then after water babies, I'm like, hi, you okay? And
you all right?
Oh, leave me alone. Can you tell me any low points about being in business? Let's have a sip.
Oh, God.
I'm nearly finished.
Can I down it? Honestly, I've only had carrot sticks and celery today. I've got to go for a run after this. Oh.
Low points. Any low points in business? We were saying before it's lonely.
It is. Do you know what? I always say, I genuinely think running a business and 7 years in, it's the best thing I've ever done. And it's also the hardest thing I've ever done. Because it is really lonely. It's really, really lonely. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter who you've got around you. You feel like you should have the answer to everything. And you don't, you know. And I think there's a lot to be said for mentors and having friends like, you know, you and I chat and kind of go, God, this is really difficult, isn't it? But I think sometimes there is where you hold back and you don't tell everybody. I put a post actually on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago whilst I was in Wales because it is really difficult and I think sometimes being a business owner and a business leader, you have to put a front on it all the time. You have to put that facade on, and you know there's plenty of times where you know I've got in the car and cried because it's just I'm exhausted. I'm working so many hours. You know, I've held it together during the day in front of my team, and then there's only so much you can do. You know, and I never let anyone see that side of me. But it's really hard, and it's really hard to juggle everything, and it's really hard to balance everything. And you know, you don't have a choice about motivation. You just have to get up every day. Do you know what I mean? And keep going and keep going and keep going. And I think, you know, as business owners, that's probably the mental aspect is probably one of the most tough ones, because we don't often talk about it and we don't often share it. But I think it's probably one of the hardest things to do, and you know, juggling stuff.
Oh my God,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and you've got, you know, I've got stepkids, but you've got a little one.
It's hard.
It's really hard.
So hard. Yeah. Life in it, like the house, you know, and then friends, partner, and then business, children. You know, it's really hard.
Do you? I don't know about you, but I think sometimes you feel like you're spinning so many plates, and you're like, right, I feel like I'm going to drop one. I don't know which one I'm going to drop, but it's like that constant flux. So, you know, I think we're not probably as kind to ourselves as we should be. You know, it's a constant journey. It's a constant kind of thing. But I think knowing what you're trying to achieve is really important. I know that sounds a really obvious thing to say, but I think sometimes it's easy just to go through the motions. And we're literally just about to launch our new 5-year plan, and I'm kind of very clear about where we're going. And I've kind of reinvigorated my kind of the business, and we're just about to submit for B Corp, which is like amazing, and I'm really excited for that. And if we get that, we'll be the first sales company in the world to have B Corp status, which is awesome.
What is that? Like, so, am I being thick?
No, not at all. No, because it's still quite new. So there's about 6,500 businesses now that are classed as B Corp. So it's basically about purpose over profit. So we're still a limited company. We've had to change our articles of association, but we've changed our whole kind of model to really kind of put our people first. There's kind of 5 key pillars on it, but it's very much around purpose over profit. So if you think, you know, like fair trade coffee, right? Yeah. You know, I love coffee. Not as much as I love Prosecco right now, but I love coffee. It's like the business version of that. So it's all around, as I say, we've kind of put loads of things in place to really kind of further. So 95% of our supply chain will be local. Do you know what I mean? We're really focused on that local supply chain. We've just cancelled, and you'll all be totally shocked about this, right? We just cancelled our Amazon account, which is totally traumatic. I know, because we're basically buying everything local. And everything like, you know, we've just all done, in fact, we did it this morning, carbon footprints for our homes, and we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. We're going to be carbon zero in the next few years. But we've made a commitment to that. We've given 5% of our net profits to charity. We're doing loads for our teams. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of different things that we're doing. So yeah, and I've kind of got a very clear 5-year vision in terms of the growth that I want from the business, where I want to go, who I want on board, what we're going to do, what we're going to diversify, well, how we're going to diversify. Yeah. So I think that's
amazing. Cool. I think setting goals is so important.
Totally, yeah.
Me and Ben set goals, obviously, for this business. And now you know you have something to build up to them and lead up to them and how you're going to get there. But when you said about being kind to yourself, I completely agree. So you told me the other day, or like, no matter what I do now, I go for an hour's walk or whatever you said.
Yeah.
You said, and then when we came back, it was sunny, and I said to Ben, like, do you want to go for a walk? Yeah. And then we ended up being a team thing, and we all went for a lovely walk, and we do it now when it's sunny. Yeah. But I think it's nice, and I think that it's nice that you went on a holiday and you had that little bit of space. Yeah. And I think, like, I'm guilty of not doing that.
Do you know what? Genuinely, for the first 3 years, I didn't do it. And now, every quarter, I book a week's holiday, regardless. And I might go away, I might not. But I will, so literally every quarter, I have a week off. And you know, I think the culture of working 100 hours a week and not taking leave is wrong. You know, if you can't leave your business for a few days, there's an issue with your business, not with you.
Yes,
it's not a badge of honour to work a 100-hour week. It's not a badge of honour not to take leave. You know, you've got to be able to do that because, you know, at the start of your business, you are the business. So if you fail, the business fails, you know, and I didn't do that, and I wish I had. And it was almost like, I felt like I couldn't, like I shouldn't, like I should be able to work, you know, 365 days a year for 3 years in a row. Well, no one can do that. And I wish I'd done that sooner. So I am like really, don't get me wrong, I still check my emails when I'm away because I hate coming back to loads of stuff. So I will absolutely keep on top of stuff every week, every day whilst I'm away. And that's my choice. And I know that doesn't suit everybody and, you know, be critical of that. But do you know what? We were literally talking a couple of weeks ago about screen time and things like that. And my screen time is ridiculous. Like my usage on social media and stuff is ridiculous. And I really need to be conscious of it because I think we live in an age now where information's so rapid that it's impossible, and going back to being kind, it's impossible not to compare yourself to other people and to look at success. And, you know, we only ever show social media the side of ourselves that we want to see, right? Or that we want other people to see. So, you know, you are what you consume, yeah? So if you're consuming stuff like that all the time, it's not going to have a good impact on you. So I'm trying to kind of take a little bit of a step back from it and just use it when I need to rather than frequently as I do.
2 questions from that.
Okay.
So what do you think about...
Can I have a sip?
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a sip.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, God, what are you going to ask me? I'm totally terrified now. Right, I'm holding on. Pass me the bottle. Pass me the bottle.
Right,
Jim. What? I'm joking. Right, okay. I'm holding on. What?
I forgot my second question, right? First question. Do you know people who say, oh, like, get up at 5 a.m., like, do this on a morning, like, you know, go for a walk, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that? What do you think about, like, do you have to get up at 5? Like, do you have to get up at 5 in the morning? And
do you know what I genuinely used to. I read this book called The 5 a.m. Club and totally turned into that person. And the last 2 years, no, I don't. I mean, I travel down to Teesside on a Monday, Wednesday and a Friday, and I am up at 5:45, 5:45, 6:45, because I'm in the car for like 6:15, 6:30. And my days are long, do you know what I mean? Because I live in Newcastle, so it's kind of an hour. So those days are long, and I do get up those. Occasionally, I'll set my alarm to go to the gym on a Tuesday and Thursday when I'm working from home at like 6:30. And occasionally I do get up, Jess. But actually, I really enjoy sleeping until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'm a rubbish sleeper, so I probably get 5 hours if I'm lucky a night. So I see the benefit of it because I've done it and I've been there before. But I like going to bed too late to do it.
Do you? What time do you go to bed?
Oh, like midnight, 1 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Look at you, like,
God.
what? That's the middle of the morning.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So do you not sleep very well?
No, I'm not. I've never been a good sleeper.
I haven't either. But
I've started wearing earplugs like an old lady.
do you?
Yeah, totally.
It's like an old lady. But I overthink.
Oh, that's
it's
my
because
problem.
I overthink,
Yeah.
and I have to have a notepad next to the
I
bed.
do. I've got sticky notes.
Yeah.
I literally, I go to bed and I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
And so I do. I constantly, I'm rubbish at that.
And then I'll think, and then I'll message, and James seems to be always up when I message him, like just ideas and stuff, and I don't know why he is.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah, he messages back, and I'm like, you don't need to message back at 1 o'clock in the morning, James. I've just woke up for a bit of creative inspiration on LinkedIn, and you.
No, I tend to, I do. And actually, to be fair, if you don't write it down or message, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I had a really good idea last night, I can't remember what it was.
Well, I usually schedule my emails, so I schedule for 8 a.m. so people don't wake up if I do message them.
Well, that
but on
explains a
LinkedIn,
lot. You can't.
You can't. And if it's one of them things that you just share, I just share, not thinking that you'll be awake. And you no.
That's dedication, James. That's very impressive. Very impressive.
Isn't it?
Honestly.
I'm not a bitch, and I'm like, you must answer me back now.
Honestly, HR, I can put you in touch with someone. I'm joking.
Do it. So my other question, personal branding.
Oh.
What do you think about that?
Good question.
Yes. So you are out there on LinkedIn.
I try.
You have an active profile. You're very out there on your Instagram.
Thanks.
Love it. I love the Insta
Very
stories.
interesting question. So I think it's really challenging for anybody that sets up a business, especially when you're like me and you think, oh, that's good. I didn't actually name the business after myself. It's called JustWilliams because of the books, right, which is around Naughty Little Schoolboy, which is like my brother. But it's obviously got my surname in it. So the difficulty is when you come to set up a business is it is you to start off with. And you are the business. And, as you grow a business and you expand a business, you've got to look at how you can essence, how is the business valuable without you? And that's the kind of a key thing. And therefore, I've done a lot in terms of my personal profile, and I'm trying to do more and more of that because that is beneficial to the business. But it's also trying to kind of give the business its own identity without it being my show. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And, I'm really lucky. I've got Emma McDonald who works for me, who's just brilliant. And I'm really trying to, she's superb. And I'm really trying to kind of get her more visible in the business now rather than it just be like me. But I'm actually working with a coach in regards to it at the moment because it's kind of, I wear loads of different hats. I do loads of different stuff. So I've got a couple of businesses. I'm a non-exec. I sit on a couple of boards. You kind of go, right, what is my identity? How can I kind of work this? And so I'm working with someone to help me with it because I think it's a really challenging subject. And it's like how do you identify or how do you kind of develop your own brand amongst all of that?
Well, it is that, isn't it? Especially, like, as you said, you wear so many hats.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously you do things with Darlington Building Up Society.
I do.
Non-exec for that. And then you've got the Sales Academy, and you've got JustWilliams.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but everybody's got their own personal branding. Oh, everyone's got their own branding. Yeah. So which one?
It is. And you know what? I think it's really challenging, Jess. It's really challenging. And, I don't think I've cracked it. I don't think, I think I've got a lot to go for it. But I think it's positioning yourself in a certain way. And I think if you know what you're trying to achieve and I've got an idea about where I want to be and what I want to do and, and I'm very lucky to have had the opportunities that I've had. I've worked my absolute arse off for them. But, where I am now isn't where I'm going to be in 10 years' time. And you've got to think about that, and it's how they all kind of work together and how they all complement each other. But it's a real challenging question. And I know actually there's a couple of companies that have set up recently that look at that personal branding. And it's how do you position yourselves as an owner manager in terms of moving that forward. But I think it's a key question. Hopefully it's something you can help people with as well, is it not?
Of course. Personal branding.
There you go. Because I think it's, you know, it's you. I think it's like anything. It's like we were talking about LinkedIn earlier. Obviously, you've got a part in your LinkedIn profile. You can say, right, well, what's your role? Yeah. Well, you know, for example, you're a mum, you're a partner, you're a daughter, you're a niece. Do you know what I mean? You're an auntie, you're an MD, you're a leader, you're a mentor, you're a non-exec, you're a trustee. Well, all of these things, none of those roles define you. Yeah. They don't make you who you are. They're part of you. You know, and they are all kind of like a bit of a jigsaw that make you who you are. But, you know, your role as a mother doesn't define you. Your role as an MD doesn't define you. Mm-hmm. But it's that kind of wider piece in terms of how do you position yourselves, encompassing all of those to be the person that you are.
Yeah, that's all right. What do you think about, what type of content do you not like to see on social media?
I think kind of self-absorbing type stuff. You know, I think social media's changed so much in the last few years, you know. I think I'm a massive believer in being professionally authentic. So I think you've got to be you. I think you've got to be, as I say, I put a post out on LinkedIn, which was probably quite a vulnerable one for me. It was kind of saying, right, I'm on holiday, I'm taking some time out. And I wouldn't normally have posted that on LinkedIn, but it was really, really relevant because it was 2 years since, oh, it's a sign, isn't it, that I need a drink?
It is. It is definitely a sign.
It was 2 years since the pandemic had started, since lockdown had started. And I think it's really important to acknowledge, actually, that, you know, we've all been through a pretty tough time. And so I think mixing that kind of personal aspect, but being professional always is really, really important. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't be authentically themselves. I think they should be, but I think they've got to be aware of the audience that they're talking to. You know, so you've got to be aware of the audience you're talking to and adapt yourself to that situation in a kind of authentic way. And I think, you know, I don't really care what someone's had for lunch or for dinner, you know, unless there's a big context behind it. And I think we've got, you know, again, the different platforms, and you're the expert here, Jess, not me, but the different platforms are there for different reasons. Sharing content, the same content across all platforms is just dull, you know, and sharing too frequently. Like, you know, you don't want to see someone pop up on your feed every 3 seconds, you know, and if you're going to share something, if you're not, you know, we all occasionally just share something, but, you know, don't be lazy, add content to it, you know. Yeah, and I think we're all, I'm a fan of a quote, right? I love a good quote. But, you know, I think some people feel like that they've turned into like life coaches and advisors, you know, and quoting all the time your own words is yeah, it's a bit much sometimes.
Damn,
it's a bit much. That's not, you know, that I just think, you know, we've all become a little bit philosophical, haven't we? Which is good in many ways, but I just think, you know,
sometimes it's like, oh,
it's, you know, less is more. Less is more, right?
Yeah. What occupation would you be if you weren't doing JustWilliams?
Oh, good question.
Do you want me to tell you what the people have said?
No, that might scare me.
Right.
Well, when I had, did you have careers advice at school? Right.
I can't remember.
I think I was about 7 and my mum took me to a beautician, right? I sat and when I was at the beautician, when my mum was going to the beauticians, and watched mesmerised as this woman waxed my mum's legs, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to do that for a living, right? And then, I kind of thought that. And then when I did that careers advice thing, they told me I was going to be a florist. And then I wanted to be a barrister for a long time. Appreciate there's quite a variety here. But now I think I would be a yoga teacher.
Right. That went really, really random.
I know, it was kind of quite random. I think I'd be I've just booked a yoga retreat actually, which I'm totally excited about, because my criteria, which is very difficult to find, is a yoga retreat where they eat meat and you can drink alcohol.
Nice.
And that's quite difficult to find, but I found one, so I'm very happy. So I'd be an alternative type of yoga teacher that ate meat and drank alcohol.
I mean, that went really,
that was
really
so
random.
I'm sorry. Do you want to do that again, Jack?
No,
I
it's
just
fine.
totally ruined that.
Tell me some influential people in your life.
Oh, brutal, but good question. Mm-hmm. Oh,
it can be 3. We'll go with 3 people.
For God's sake! Well, you're just being very specific now. Influential people in my life. Do you know what? My grandma, who is 96. And her and my grandpa set up their own business and ran a really successful engineering business down in Sheffield. And she's just really headstrong, very determined, very independent. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. She's just been put into a care home, and that's quite kind of difficult to see. But she's just, she's an absolute legend.
Shout out to her.
Yeah,
what a legend.
She's pretty awesome. She's pretty awesome. She's 96, so good genes. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. So my grandma is probably the first one. You know what? I always I'm a bit of a fan of Michelle Mone. I think she's a pretty kind of awesome female entrepreneur. I think she's overcome quite a lot of diversity and issues really, and she's kind of moved forward. And I've kind of got a lot of respect for her. I think actually in the region we're blessed with quite a lot of inspirational kind of entrepreneurs, and we're lucky that we've got quite a lot of those in Teesside. There's a guy called Paul McGee who is an author. He's had like 14 or 15 books. He's crazy. Sunday Times bestseller also. And he wrote a book called Sumo, which stands for Shut Up and Move On. And it's like the best book I've ever read. And I kind of keep coming back to it. And I'm really, he's a good friend of mine. But he's pretty inspirational because, you know what, he's had quite a lot of setbacks. And he says it how it is. And I really respect that. I think there's so many people, and it's something that, I've definitely changed my stance on over the last 7 years, is that I used to probably toe the party line a lot more than I do now. I used to not want to rock the boat or be controversial or disruptive or just agree with people. I don't feel the need to do that anymore. I feel that being myself and being authentic and being true is more important than towing the party line. And I know that won't always go down well with people, but I think that's really, really important. And Paul's book, in terms of perspective, is probably a pretty key book in my life, if I'm honest.
I think you've spoken to me about him before.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
I like that you've said about the authentication.
God, it's so important. I think, we all are trying to find a place in society, aren't we? And the business community. And I think, it's really difficult. And you want everyone, it's human nature that we want people to like us. Of course we do. And I'm no different to any of that. But I'm not very good at kind of being what people want me to be. And I've kind of got to the point where I don't want to do that anymore. Is not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to appreciate you for who you are or what you do or your opinions or what you say. But I'm okay with that now. And it's taken me a long time to get there. But I'm no longer prepared to mould myself to what other people think I should be. And that's quite difficult, and that's quite a journey, and you don't always get it right. But I think being you in a professional way is the most important thing you can be, rather than trying to almost play up to what you think people think you should be.
I think that was a really good answer.
Thanks.
It's a lovely answer.
Thanks.
Cheers, babe.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to you for being a good guest. Okay, so any books that you recommend? You said about Paul McGee.
Yeah, I read fiction and I listen to kind of books. So when I'm travelling in the car, I'm a big fan of kind of audio books. I listen to loads of books. Key books that I've listened to. I quite like Robin Sharma's books. I've always been a fan of his. Paul McGee's got a range of different books. Sumo is the first one that I kind of really related to. We obviously during lockdown did a bit of a book club, which was good because it kind of like challenges you about different books that you should read. There was a lady that Maria Hurt. I can't pronounce the surname, Maria. She's called Maria.
Maria.
Sorry, yeah, Maria. That was the founder of Rodial, and she had an amazing book out. I've got a massive kind of list of books. I'm listening to something called Make It Happen at the moment, which is around time, not about kind of being more productive, but about how you manage your time, which is how I know that I spend far too much time on my phone. But I think, you know what, it's interesting. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It's like, do we over-consume books? Like, how do you make sure that you listen to a book or read a book or however you consume it and then implement it? Or do you just move on to the next thing? Like, how do you make sure that you actually take something away from it before you kind of move on to the next thing? I don't know.
Have you got the answer for that?
Well, I've started to kind of do a bit of a summary of a book before I then move on to another one. So like kind of summarise, because I make notes as I'm going through a book and then kind of pick out some of the key points. So I try and do that before I kind of move on, but I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know.
Keep me posted.
Yeah. To be fair, the one thing that I have, and I always refer back to, is one of Paul McGee's books in Sumo, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Like 10 being death. If you've got an issue today, where does it sit? Where will it sit in 3 months, and where will it sit in 6 months, and where will it sit in a year? Yeah? So it doesn't matter how upset you are or how consumed you are with whatever's going on, like where does it sit on 1 to 10, 10 being death? And like, will it bother you in 6 months? Do you know what I mean? And that's really helped me, because I think running your own business, it's impossible not to take things personally.
Yes. And looking at it, now you can take a step back and think, right, am I going to be this upset in 6 months or whatever? Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really helped me. Don't get me wrong. I think we're all still emotional beasts, aren't we?
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing that I've kind of, has really helped me. And, I went through a phase of getting up at 5 o'clock and doing all of that. And that was right for me at the time. But, we go through different phases in our lives and we change dependent on that, don't we? So.
Yeah. What about movies?
Shawshank Redemption is my favourite film of all time.
Okay.
I was watching Agatha Christie's new Nile film last night, Death on the Nile, which I know makes me sound a little bit, I love it. I'm a bit of a musical fan, if the truth be told. I love my musicals, musical theatre, love it.
Do you not like Game of Thrones?
Nah, never watched it. Honestly, I'm rubbish. Netflix-wise, what am I watching? Can't remember, nothing. Bridgerton. That's what I mean.
I'll give you Bridgerton.
Okay, and
the new season's out.
Yeah, well, I've watched the whole thing.
Fair enough.
I'm like really jumpy, so I'm not allowed to sit and watch anything with a glass, because the amount of times I've like literally the smallest of thing and I've gone and like it's gone everywhere. I've been covered in red wine and water and God knows what, and the dog, the poor Alfie, so my 16-year-old Cocker Spaniel who's black and white has been covered more in red wine than ever before. Probably think I'm a right alcoholic, but has literally, bless him, he's just been sat there and I'm like, something's happened and I'm like, oh my God, and the dog's like covered in red wine, the white Cocker Spaniel. Yeah. So I'm not very good with anything scary or anything jumpy, like at all. I'm rubbish with stuff like that.
I could watch a horror before work.
Oh my
be
God.
okay with that.
I walked out, this will make you laugh, and so was it new? I think it was a new Batman film, and we'd gone into a cinema up in Newcastle, and it was, I can't remember what it's called, but pretty much I was like, oh look, we're watching the cinema, and I was like, oh God, those seats look really comfy, and I was kind of sat on these seats, and then the advert started and they started moving, and I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And honestly, before it had even started, I was absolutely like, I'd spilled my pick and mix, I'd spilled my Diet Coke had gone all over me. I was just not in a good place, Jess. After 5 minutes, I got up and left.
What's one question you wish I'd asked today?
What advice would I give? Is that a bit cliche?
Do you want me to ask that?
I don't know.
Yeah. What advice would you give?
No, I'm joking. I would say that if people are thinking about setting up their own business, do it. You've got to surround yourself with really good people. You've got to find a mentor. You've got to do that. And you know what? You can't. Not you shouldn't expect too much of yourself, but you've got to be realistic on your expectations. So if you're going to set goals, I'm a massive believer in setting goals in personal and professional life. Make them realistic, because if you don't achieve them, all you're going to do is kind of end up feeling rubbish about yourself. Yeah.
So where can listeners find you online, Jess? What social media platforms?
So we're on LinkedIn, personally and professionally, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, we've got the website for the business. We've got loads going on. We've got loads of expos as well coming up. So we will be here, there, and everywhere.
And follow you on Instagram so everyone can see what you're eating, where you're walking.
Yeah, I like my food. I like getting out and about. I like kind of, my Instagram is kind of just like my personal kind of like, this is my kind of behind the scenes life, really. I don't show you me looking really, really rough in the morning, though. So if you want to see that, don't look.
You won't look rough.
Thanks. There were some entertaining pictures of me skydiving the other week, though. So
how did that go?
Hideous. Never do it again.
Right.
Never do it again.
Right.
But I've got a few more big challenges coming up this year. So I've got the SAS Challenge in June and then a marathon in October, all for charity. So I've got loads coming up. So I need to start training a little bit harder for all that. I
would never do a skydive. I don't know how you did that. Well done for doing it.
I think you should come and do the marathon or something with me, Jess.
Are you kidding?
No,
I couldn't even run. Remember when we were going to go, me, you and Claire, and do that challenge thing, and I was trying to get out of it for ages.
You were non-committal with that.
I'm just not a sport person, not a runner, scared of heights, scared of the sea.
Oh.
I'll like, walk in it, but I won't do anything else in it.
No. Okay, maybe not then. Maybe you can just cheer.
Well, thanks for being on, Jess. I really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here, and cheers. You're a bad influence.
I know. Cheers. Come back again.